I'm Michael Lane, along with my co-host. How you doing today, Lisa?
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing good. Excited about our guest today.
Me too. Very excited.
Speaking of that, our guest is Dr. Pete Goldman. He was born and raised in New York City. He's founder of Zone School of Healing and the Zone Technique. In his chiropractic business, he has had patients fly in to see him, healing from over 30 different countries and cities around the globe. Also, over 200 of his patients drive 4 hours each way for a 5-minute zone adjustment with him. Dr. Pete has black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Kyokushin, and many of the best pro athletes in the world are his patients. Welcome aboard, Dr. Pete.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lisa. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry, I'm just excited.
Let's just dive right into it. So, what is zone healing?
So, there was a guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet. It's actually a picture of him over my shoulder, but Dr. Thurman Fleet was, I think, one of the greatest healers probably of the last couple thousand years. And as you guys know, because you're in a world where you understand health and healing, there's many different paths to healing. There's acupuncture, there's homeopathy, there's chiropractic, there's Reiki, there's energy healing, there's medicine, there's naturopathy, there's American Indian medicine, whatever. There's Christian Science, that's another kind of healing. So there's a lot of great modes and methods of healing, obviously. And of course, I respect them all because results are results. And anyone who's helping anyone, that's got my thumbs up, of course. Dr. Thurman Fleet, anyone who wants to read about him can go. There's a website dedicated to him. It's called drthurmanfleet.com, drthurmanfleet.com. And Dr. Fleet was a chiropractor, kind of in name only. He was a chiropractor. He practiced in San Antonio, Texas in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, etc. And his practice was so busy that the police in San Antonio had to reroute traffic patterns in order to accommodate the people coming to his office. So you must be doing something right if the police have to reroute traffic just when you're open for business. And people came to him with, diabetes and epilepsy and all these so-called hard to fix diseases, and he took care of it. Certainly no other chiropractor was doing what he was doing, that's for sure. And very few healers on this planet of any type, and I mentioned some before, were able to do what he was able to do. And we could have a whole hour conversation just about him. But with that said, when I was a little kid, I was born and raised in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn. And when I was a kid, I grew up in kind of a unique family in that we didn't go to a medical doctor. Like our doctors, we had a couple doctors. The three doctors in our, for our family was a chiropractor, a naturopath, and a homeopath. That's how I grew up.
That's wonderful.
And it was really cool. And my mom, if me and my sister needed to heal, she would do reflexology on us. That's what she would do. She would just rub our feet, So I grew up in that kind of atmosphere. And our chiropractor was actually a direct disciple of Dr. Fleet, luckily enough. And, I started going to him in the 1970s in Brooklyn when I was a kid. And he, this guy practiced for many years. And he inspired me to become a chiropractor, which I ultimately did. But I just went to chiropractic school to kind of get my degree, to say, like, I am a chiropractor. But
so that you could practice, right? So you can actually practice on people, right? Okay.
Exactly, Lisa. I certainly didn't learn anything about healing there, that's for sure.
Right.
Anyway, so I was mentored throughout all this time by that guy in Brooklyn and some other disciples of Dr. Fleet. And I learned what was called zone therapy, which was a type of healing that Dr. Fleet created in 1931. And then over the years, I had many other influences in healing and metaphysics. And I altered it just a bit. And I created what's called zone technique, which is slightly different than zone therapy. And that's pretty much the evolution. And I'll just say one last thing in answering Michael's first question, which is, at least on a physical level, I'm not even talking about a metaphysical level, but on a physical level, Dr. Fleet created a system that divides the body up into 6 systems, which is somewhere within these 6 systems. And that if anyone had any condition, disease, it was due to a disturbance in one or more of these 6 systems. And he showed a way to determine quickly which of these systems is not balanced on someone, and then balance them very easily and gently with your hands, so their body is set up to heal. And that's just the brief summary of what was zone therapy created by Dr. Fleet and what's become zone technique, which of course I teach in zone school.
I love that. So I'm a healer myself. I do more energy healing and generational healing, that kind of thing, emotional healing. So I love what you're doing. Would you say, Dr. Goldman, that it's having to do with opening up the meridians and having them all access each other and the energy flows?
Well, I'll give you a multi-part answer to that question, Lisa.
Okay.
Of course, meridians are usually dealt with specifically by acupuncturists. So, of course, I do not, feel people's pulses the way an acupuncturist would, or look at their tongue like an acupuncturist would, to really analyze their meridians and then do something and then recheck their pulse and their tongue to see if I've affected their meridians. However, I have my own way to balance these six systems in question that I referred to before. And I can tell you for sure that if someone really does know how to check meridians, like a good acupuncturist, and a person has blocked meridians and they come to me and I do things the way I do them without specifically or officially addressing the meridians, after a few sessions with me, they can go to the person who does know how to read meridians and they'll be clear.
That's, yeah, because what you're talking about, because if you look like down the spine and different things, you look at the picture of your meridian, like the main meridian is the main one going down your spine. And I think I saw you reference that in one of your videos. I think you are accessing them they're automatically I think you're awakening them or turning them on, so to speak, or the flow of them without having to check them. I think it's just an automatic thing. It sounds like you're doing, right?
Here's the great part, Lisa. This is the way I look at it. Let's just say there's someone who's interested in the meridians like an acupuncturist or an energy worker, or the zones like a zone doc like myself, or let's say it was the symptoms changing like a classical homeopath would look for, or let's say it's, whatever, maybe it's an osteopath looking at some kind of alignment, which of course I respect all of them. But the bottom line is there is a before and after with the so-called dis-ease in the patient. So if someone has a thyroid problem, the only thing that matters is who's going to fix it.
Right.
If someone has, if a woman has endometriosis, who's going to work on her and make her not have it anymore? Or
exactly.
If someone has IBS, who's going to work on them and make their digestion perfect? So the way I, for lack of a better word, judge, I can't think of a better word at the moment, the way I judge any healer is their results. Because really, as you both know very well, there's many very compelling theories and philosophies about healing, whether they involve meridians or energy centers or so-called, past lives or emotional connections. And I'm not saying that all of that is not valid, because it probably is and may be. But the bottom line is results. So before and afters become quite significant, because if XYZ patient, had migraine headaches every day, the question is, which healer are they going to go to? And then in X amount of time, They never have a headache again, and their head feels perfect 24/7, 365. So I
I
only
love that you
judge.
say that. I love that you say that because in my business, I used to tell my clients that most of my clients came one time to see me. Right? We did a 2-hour session. We'd go through all their medical history. I'd get rid of all their wounds, their ailments, their emotional stuff, whatever blockage they had, and then their physical ailments would start to improve after they left. So most of my clients came one time, but you remember I used to work in a building, and it was a big medical, not a big medical building. It was a big building where there was a lot of therapists, so to speak, in their little rooms. They'd come in, and I could hear through the walls, and I often would hear their clients come back every single week to talk about their problems. And there's therapists. They were just there to talk. They weren't there to do hands-on healing or anything like that. And I remember thinking to myself, dang, I used to call it the mortgage business or the mortgage, it was the mortgage plan. I'm like, those people come every week and pay that guy $150 to sit there for an hour and cry and I think therapy has its place. So does a lot of things, right? But if you have to go for 5 years or 10 years and tell the same story every week, they're not really helping you. And I used to tell my clients, if I don't help you, please fire me and find somebody that you can go to that's going to give you results that are going to be rather quick and not 5 years in or 10 years in. And you don't really feel any different. You're just like, okay, I can cope a little bit more. So I love that you say that. And I love results. And I love the fact that you can do it quickly. So that's pretty exciting.
Thank you. I like everything you said. And what I've told many chiropractors, because many chiropractors get very emotionally attached to their technique and or philosophy. And what I usually say to them is, as an example, I'm just making this up, but let's say a woman came into you, she has period cramps, panic attacks, terrible digestion, neck pain, and a thyroid problem. What are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? And
Right.
If she comes to you, where's she going to be at in 3 months? You're going to knock everything off that list, or 2 months, or whatever it is. And the answer, of course, is no. But if they join Zone School and learn Zone technique, they'll knock all those off fairly easily.
I love that. That's great.
I love it. That's impressive. Yeah. Can you, Dr. Pete, because you mentioned about the 6 zones, can you go into that a little more on what's in each of the 6 zones?
My pleasure. So the glandular system, well, first let me say that according to Dr. Fleet, the brain is divided up into 6 parts, and each brain center controls a different system of the body. So he said that the glandular brain center is in the cerebellum, and there's a part of the cerebellum that governs all the glands. And this just means every gland in the body. Some of them are the obvious ones, like, thyroid and adrenals and, whatever is a gland, pituitary, pineal. And then there's other glands, like the liver's a gland, So I think it's like 126 glands. I don't know how many there are. But anyway, however many glands there are, they're all governed by a brain center in the cerebellum. So that would be that. I'll get back to the brain centers in a moment. Zone 2, they're called the 6 zones or the 6 systems. That's zone 1, or the glandular system. Zone 2 is called the eliminative system. It's everything that's responsible for elimination of toxins: sinuses, lungs, kidneys, bladder, bronchial tubes, intestines, skin, meaning it's the body's waste disposal plant. So that's that. And the brain center for that is in the cerebrum. I'll get back to the brain centers later, as I mentioned. Then the 3rd system is the nervous system. Of course, there's the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, all the nerves. And that brain center is in the cerebrum. Now, of course, you could argue, someone could say, well, the nervous system is the brain because that's the central nervous system. Yes, but according to Dr. Fleet, there's a part of the brain in the cerebrum that governs the rest of the nervous system, meaning the rest of the brain and everything I mentioned. Okay. Now, the 4th system, or known as Zone 4, is the digestive system, not to be confused with Zone 2, which is the eliminative system. There's some overlap, but the digestive system is everything it digests and assimilates food. And that's like the brain center for that is in the 4th ventricle of the brain. And then the 5th zone, we're coming up on the 6th. The 5th zone is the muscle zone. It's all the muscles of the body, and that brain center is also in the cerebellum, similar to the glands. And then lastly, you have the circulatory zone, or Zone 6, or circulatory system, which is in the both caudate nuclei of the brain, and it controls all the circulatory apparatus in the body. So according to Dr. Fleet, the body is like an electrical machine, and the brain is the positive pole, and the spinal cord is the negative pole. And once you determine which brain centers in the positive pole don't work properly, causing the person to be ill, you stimulate certain points in the spinal cord. And this can be stimulated with a chiropractic adjustment, energetic light touch, massage touch, it doesn't matter. If you stimulate the spinal cord in proper places, which I obviously teach where they are, the brain centers heal and the people in question can heal. And then the last thing I'll add to that is that to determine which of the 6 brain centers, and hence the system, needs work, there's actually occipital fibers on the back of the head, which I teach how to feel. And these fibers on the head have what you might call like reflex points to the 6 brain centers. When you feel the head and you know how to feel it, you can tell which brain center is not working. Then you work on the system, you work on the points in the cord, and the brain centers in question heal.
Wow, that's really amazing. So just to understand that and clarify that, so basically the 6 zones, they're all basically from the neck up, is what you're saying. They're all in the brain centers.
The brain centers control the 6 zones, you're correct. And in order to heal the brain centers in question, there's specific points in the spinal cord. So there's 6 sets of 4 points. So as an example, if a practitioner who knew how to do this feels the back of the head and they find the circulation needs work, the circulatory brain center is not working, they would stimulate these 4 points: C6, T2, T10, L1. Those are the 4 points in the negative pole to be stimulated to reset the brain center that controls circulation.
Okay.
If, for example, they felt a different point on the head, a different point, and they found that we'll say the digestive brain center wasn't working, they'd work on 4 different points, which is actually C4, T4, T8, and L4. They'd stimulate those points. So again, there's 6 sets of 4 points in the cord, which can be stimulated to heal the brain centers in question.
And that's how you find out if something's out of balance, correct?
You find out what's out of balance by feeling the back of the head.
Okay.
And so somebody may have 4 different things that they're 4 different things that they need adjusted, right?
Right. They could actually have even 6 different.
All 6.
But the way it works is because the systems are interconnected in a certain way, when you work on the primary system, and of course I teach how to tell what that is in seconds, it actually clears the secondary systems.
So so I have a 2-part question. First part is, how long does a session take?
Between 45 seconds and 5 minutes.
That's really long. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in hearing that, but okay, Dr. Goldman, we'll go with it.
I'm gonna go with 33 seconds.
Okay, then we're okay.
Yeah, Lisa's a tough interviewer.
Just giving you a hard time.
I think I can handle that. Yeah.
And then part 2, and I know this probably may not apply to you, but we're going to talk traditional chiropractic because I'm not a fan of crack my back. I've gone to NUCA doctors, and I've gone to structural engineers for my back. That's the only type of doctors I have seen. I do want to try what you have. How long does a session stay in? So once you've had a session, how long does it last, doctor?
First of all, a couple things. So in zone school, and again, anyone who's watching this or listening or whatever, if you are a chiropractor or you are some type of doctor or healer of some type, even Lisa can join. Any doctor or healer should join.
Right.
When someone comes to a practitioner who knows how to do it, they come, let's say weekly for, it could be 2 weeks, or it could be 5 weeks, or it could be 6 weeks, or whatever. But at some point in the not too distant future, after they start, the person should be presumably healed, and then it should last forever. Once someone comes, it's over. Now, will they want to come for, some kind of maintenance or whatever? I mean, they're welcome to.
Of course. Or something new arises in their body, right?
Totally. And also just to comment on the kind of chiropractic, I know I brought it up now. I remember why I brought it up. Zone School has like 1,300 members and growing fast, of chiropractors all over the world, other doctors and healers, energy workers, etc. And we had many chiropractors who were kind of like the hard adjusters, or some that were the soft adjusters, or some that were NUCA. But wherever they were at in chiropractic, when they join Zone School, their ability to help people with musculoskeletal and non-musculoskeletal things increases 1,000-fold each. When people are in my school and understand how healing really works, because zone technique could be applied to by any doctor or healer, chiropractors or any doctor or healer. I have one guy who just comes to my mind. He's in Australia. He's a massage therapist. That's a degree. He is a massage therapist. Someone came to him on a freaking heart transplant list, and he fixed them up, and they're not in the heart transplant list, and their heart is totally healed. And they go back to the cardiologist who had put them on a heart transplant list, and they're like, we don't know what's going on here, but your heart is totally healed. You are now off the heart transplant list. Your heart is totally healthy. Now, who else can do that?
I'm so excited. Okay, Michael, take it away.
Yeah, well, I have a question. So you've touched on it a little bit, Dr. Pete. But let's say I was to come in, or any new patient, brand new patient to come in. Can you walk us through the steps from start to end of what the protocol is?
Sure. I ask them why they're there to see me. So let's say they tell me they took a blood test and their liver is messed up. Like their liver is unhealthy. Whatever road that would have went down with their medical doctor, their liver is unhealthy. They also have an autoimmune disease, and their neck always hurts. I'm just making this up. And they always feel anxiety. So liver, autoimmune, anxiety, neck pain. And I tell them, look, I say, there's 6 systems in the body. I explain the zones briefly to them, like I explained to you, but a little briefer. And I say, whatever problems you were having, and you just listed 4 for me, was due to your body being imbalanced. And, in other words, not balanced in one or more of these 6 systems, causing these 4 things you told me, which was, I forgot what example I gave, which was liver issue and immune system and anxiety and neck pain.
Right.
I say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine which of these systems are not balanced. I'm going to start balancing them. And when your body's fully balanced, your liver will be total. I would expect your liver to be totally healthy. I'd expect your immune system to be totally healthy. I'd expect you to feel nice and calm, and I'd expect your neck to feel perfect. Now, how many visits will that take? I don't know, because everyone heals at their own rate. It might take 1. It might take 10. It might take 4. It might take 14. It might take 7. I say, but you show up here once a week, I expect you to get 100% better. So I have that conversation, and then I feel the back of their head. I see which systems show up. I work on those 4 points. I recheck that point in the head to make sure the brain cleared. And I say, I'll see you later. I'll see you next week.
Dang, we charge for that? No, I'm kidding. Kidding, doctor.
Actually, it's $115 per 2 minutes, really, because the first visit is about 8 minutes. And every visit after that's about 2 minutes, and it's $115. I never, $115.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. And so I heard you say that you were in the beginning, I read that you were in Berkeley, and then you said that you were somewhere else. So where are you located?
Well, what happened was, as far as the timeline of that, I'm sitting here in Franklin, Tennessee. So that's
Okay.
where I am now. I was in Berkeley.
Okay.
I started practicing in the mid 1990s. I practiced through 2021. I opened Zone School in 2017. So there was the overlap of 2017 through 2021 where I was running Zone School and practicing. In 2021, I moved to Tennessee because California was getting ridiculous, if you know anything about it. I wasn't really.
I grew up there and I left it 6.5 years ago. So very aware. Yeah.
So when I moved to Tennessee, I actually intended, lightly in my head, I kind of had an intention of, I figured I would just open a practice here. And then coincidentally, right when I moved to Tennessee in 2021, Zone School by then had gotten so huge that I realized it just took full-time work to run it, and I did not open a practice here.
Okay.
So I just run Zone School full-time. So I practiced from the mid-90s till 2021. And when I moved from Berkeley to Tennessee, I stopped officially practicing. I just run Zone School full-time. And
That's
I'll
awesome.
make an exception here and there. Like, people still fly in to see me to Tennessee, and I'll make little exceptions here and there. I had some people the last few days drive about 4 hours to see me. They stayed in the area. I saw them a few days in a row, and they went home. So if someone is going to drive hours and hours and stay for a few days, or they're going to fly in and stay for a few days, I'll make an exception. With that said, I just run Zone School full time.
Okay, that's great. That's good. That's good to know. So how was what you're doing different than what Dr. Thurman did, or how have you modified it, would you say?
Well, it's a great question, actually, Lisa. That's a really good question. First of all, let me just say I love Dr. Fleet. So
Dr. Fleet, I'm sorry. It's Dr. Thurman. It was Dr. Thurman, right?
Dr. Thurman, you're correct, Dr. Thurman Fleet. I love the guy.
Okay.
The guy, I think he had some of the best healing results of anyone of the last couple thousand years. And if you research him, I think you will find that. So I love the guy. So I'm not saying it like, oh, I changed it and it's better. No. Being better than Dr. Fleet would be almost impossible in healing. The guy was just a freaking superstar. With that said, I've had many other influences in healing and metaphysics outside of the Fleet lineage. And some of the differences are, I'll just highlight one main difference. I'll give you two main differences. How about that? I'll give you two main differences. But again, I'll reiterate as an introduction, Dr. Fleet's the greatest, so I'm not trying to surpass him at all. If I do, good for me. But the point is, he's amazing. With that said, the first thing is when a patient would come to Dr. Fleet, let's say with high blood pressure, as a chief complaint, he would just automatically work on the circulatory system. He'd say, okay, well, I'm working on zone 6 or the circulation. And he would do the points in question in the cord. Okay. I don't do that. I just feel the back of the head, no matter what they come for.
Okay, so I like that. Because the body will tell you. The body will tell you.
So whether the symptoms add up to the systems that I find, I don't care. I just do what the body tells me. That's one difference.
Okay.
And two is, you'll like this, Lisa. I think Michael will like it too. I'm just mentioning Lisa because of the healing work she mentioned she did before.
Yeah.
I've actually discovered a way. It's going to sound very odd to your listeners, but when a patient comes in, and even if they're quite sick and they have their body quite unbalanced, even before I touch them to do what I already mentioned that I do, I can usually ask them a question, and just them thinking about what I asked, it doesn't even matter what they answer, will bring out of the subconscious something which is causing this disease in their body. And often when you bring it from the darkness of the subconscious to the light of the conscious, it will just dissolve. And the body starts healing like that. And then I continue to proceed on a physical level. So that's something I've
It doesn't sound odd to me at all, because Michael's one of my students, as is Emma, and I just taught 50 people everything. I used to teach this 10, 15 years ago in California, energy healing to everybody. So when you talk about subconscious, I love that, because I do believe that your subconscious mind knows everything about you. everything you've ever seen, smelled, tasted. It knows what's wrong with you. It knows everything. And it's really just a matter of asking the questions to get to it. So I love what you said, and it makes perfect sense to me. But I do understand how some people don't realize that your subconscious it knows everything. It's your master, right? It really does. And if you can just access that and ask the right questions, in my world, I ask questions. In your world, you feel it and you know, but if you can ask the question as well, I think it bridges it. And I do think it brings it to the surface much quicker than, because a lot of people are unaware of how, they don't know that their body's all connected. They don't realize that this meridian's attached to this meridian and everything affects everything, right? Energy, emotions, physical, it's all connected. So I love that answer.
I'm gonna add something which I think you'll love even more. A lot of
Okay.
people say, well, how do I know what's in my subconscious? How do I know what's in my conscious? Well, I'm gonna tell them. Well, if you want to know what's in your conscious mind, that's pretty easy because it's what you're thinking right now. That's in your conscious mind. But when people say, subconscious, sub means below. So it's below my conscious. How could I possibly know the concepts in my subconscious mind? How could I know them? It's subconscious. Well, I'll give you a real good hint. Look at your body and look at your life, and that's an exact replica of the concepts in your subconscious.
That's right. Right. Look at your current situation. And one of the things we talked about last week was like, okay, there's no complaining for a week. Every time you guys, just 7 days, no complaining. And I want you to catch how many times you were going to complain, because it starts with, we know that what comes out of our mouth is a reflection of what we've been thinking about, right? And if we can learn to control our thoughts or our words, then we can learn to control our thoughts, and we can kind of push all that, we're being negative or we're being this or that. And you're right. You look at your current situation and it's exactly what you ordered based on what you're thinking about, what you've worked on, what you haven't, what you've left on the table. And your current situation is exactly what you've kind of manifested your entire life, or what you think about. So I like that you said that's actually good. So Michael, you're on.
Yeah,
Take it away.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm intrigued, because I know you got quite the background in martial arts. So the question, how has martial arts assisted you in this? What has it taught you in your healing practice or benefited you to get to this point?
So I'll tell you, first of all, for those martial arts fans out there, I used to be a worldwide competitor in Kyokushin, which is Kyokushin, for anyone who wants to put it in YouTube. And I'm also I have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu also. I've been a martial artist since I was a kid. And in my in the early 1990s, I fought in Europe and the US at the highest level, the world-class level in Kyokushin. And the reason I'm giving this answer, Michael, so specifically is to answer your question in detail. The kind of fighting I did, it was not like Karate Kid where it's like, point like a tag. The kind of fighting I did, you were trying to knock each other out cold. So you were trying to knock each other out. And I was fighting the best fighters in the world who were trying to separate me from consciousness, right? So the training I did was incredibly brutal. And what I learned in my Kyokushin training, which was, I used to train 6-7 days a week, 2 hours a day when I was a fighter in the early 1990s. What I learned is I really learned about the mind. Not because our teacher told us about the mind. Because, for example, let's say, I'm just making this up. Michael, I'm just making this up. Let's just pretend there was a Zen center near where you live. And by the way, nothing against Zen. I like Buddhism. I like Zen. I like Buddhism. But let's just say there was a Zen center where you live, and there was a high-level speaker, a Zen teacher. And he said that night while you were sitting there, he said something like, I know I'm not really this body. This body is just something that I'm wearing. I'm not attached to this body. I know that the real me is just inside this body, but this body is just something I have, like I have a shirt. So he says that.
Right.
And then when he's leaving the talk, someone comes to rob him, And he's like, no, no, please, please, please. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess his talk was worthless, because if they threatened him and he said, yeah, go ahead, then I think his talk is legit. So my point is, anyone can read a spiritual book or hear a spiritual teacher and think they know about the mind. But if you train in a certain way, you find out really about the mind. So I trained with, I just got lucky, coincidental, or however life works out, I don't know. But I trained with one of the greatest living martial artists at the time from Japan. And I was with him, like I said, 6 days a week, 2 hours a day for years. And I really understood about the mind, because I was in training once with this very high level group of fighters. It was like, we were the world headquarters. We were like the headquarters in the United States. This guy's just like a living legend, and it was closed door training, real fighting, and I was fighting one of the heavyweights. I was a middleweight at the time. Now I'd be a heavyweight, but back then I was a middleweight. So somehow he punched me in the chin and I bit my tongue. Like my tongue got bit, even though I was wearing a mouthpiece. And there was blood pouring out of my mouth. And I was on my hands and knees. The blood was coming out of my mouth. And it must have been a deep cut, because I remember the blood was like dark. It was like dark blood.
Right.
And then I rolled onto my back. Like I was on my hands and knees, and then I rolled onto my back. The blood was coming out of my face. And one thing our teacher taught us, and he never taught it to us verbally, but it was just the way it was. There was no excuses. There was just no excuses. There was no valid excuse for anything. Anything. To him, the only valid excuse is that you were dead. I mean, if you were not dead, don't bother telling him anything. So I was laying on my back, with blood pouring all out. And we were, mind you, an hour and a half into brutal training. So I thought he would come up to me, look down at me, and say, Peter, you know what? Well, of course, in a thick Japanese accent, which I'm not going to try to imitate. Hey, Peter, you know what? Go shower. In fact, he sent someone, go take care of him in the locker room. Go take a shower. Let's get your mouth cleaned up, right? You're done for the day. I thought that. And I remember, it's kind of hard to explain in words to you guys, but I remember feeling relieved. I was laying on my back, very happy. Like, this is the one time I'm going to get a valid excuse. And I remember he came over to me, because of course he was in the room, and then he walked over when he saw me laying on my back. And the guy I was training with, who was my friend, was looking at me too. They were both looking down at me. And he looked at me. Keep in mind, this was a guy at the time that I almost like worshipped, I can't think of a different word. It wasn't really worship, but it was like that, And he looked down at me and he goes, "You're fine, get up." And I remember this whole surge of energy went into my body. Like I was just like, I had no energy left, but I just got up and started fighting. Of course, the blood was flying all over the place. But the point is, I never forgot that, because I started understanding the mind, really understanding the mind. Not because I read it in some Zen book, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about Zen, because I like Zen, as I said, or not because some speaker made a talk about the mind. I felt in my body what the mind really can do, really, 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 really can do. So that's a long answer to your question, Michael, but that's the answer, is the kind of martial arts I did, training with the greatest Kyokushin fighter ever, probably. I really understood the mind. And when you really understand the mind, even though he never talked about health or healing, my knowledge of the mind really has helped me in healing and to teach healing. So I'd say that would be the answer to that.
So kind of like you really, to another level, were able to internalize it, because what I'm kind of hearing, understand, right? It's like you said, when people, you read it in a book or you hear it, and it's like, it's kind of more on the surface, but you're able to like internalize it deep of what the mind is and what it's about. Is that a correct assumption?
It's funny. I never thought of it like that, but now that you say it, I think it's a very good analysis of it. I heard that Lisa wants to spar with me. I'm not sure if that's
She will. Yep, for that, Lisa. Oh, she must not
What else
be.
you got?
You're muted, Lisa. If you know.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was talking.
Yeah.
What did he say that I would do? I'm sorry.
Well, Dr. Pete, he's ready. He said you're up to spar with him.
yeah, we'll see.
I volunteered you.
After Lisa heard that story, she actually challenged me in the chat. She's like, anytime you want to spar, no problem.
Yeah.
yeah, not so much, but I'll get there. That's funny. That's a crack up, actually.
Yeah.
All right.
So getting back to the zone technique here, question now, I am a Reiki master and I'm kind of, I'm used to working with chakras and chakra centers. I don't know how much that would even come into play, but is this a technique, the zone technique, that anyone can learn?
Yes, I have so many Reiki masters. And again, Michael, let's put it like this. First of all, we have like 300 Reiki masters as members of Zone School. And let's just put it simply like this. Let's just say there's a Reiki master, whoever they are, wherever they are. Maybe they're doing their stuff long distance. Maybe they're doing it in person. Maybe they do both, whatever. Mm-hmm. They have a certain ability to help people with musculoskeletal problems like neck pain, back pain. And they have a certain ability to help people with non-musculoskeletal problems like panic attacks, thyroid problems, liver problems, whatever.
Right.
What I can tell you is any Reiki master who joins Zone School is infinitely better at helping people with both.
Okay.
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah, I love this. My belief is that we need solutions that are immediately effective for people around the globe. And if this is something that can help people that quickly, then we need to cross-train thousands of doctors across the world, right?
Please. And actually, we have, if anyone goes to the Zone School website, which I referenced before, zoneschoolofhealing.com, and they go to directory, they can see a directory of certified practitioners. So if someone wants to find a certified practitioner, they can do that there in the meantime. Pretty soon,
perfect.
Michael and Lisa will be on that list.
I will be on that list, and then, but I want to experience it, and then I want to train, and then I want to learn it, and then I want everyone in the,
Where are you guys geographically? Where are you both geographically?
I'm in the Northwest, moving soon, so I'll still be in the Northwest, but I'm moving across to a different state, and Michael is.
I'm in Nevada.
He's in
Cool.
Tahoe area.
Okay. Well, I have some good people for both of you if you're interested.
Okay.
Yeah. And
my daughter I'm highly interested. Yeah, because it's. I find myself, attracted to this. I like,
Me too. This sounds amazing.
It's amazing. The quickness of it. It's.
That brings my next question. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. Sorry about that. The only thing I wanted to point out is that the thing I love best about it is the results. Because as I said before, and as we actually all agreed with, philosophies and theories are a dime a dozen. And some people are just very magnetic. So they have a real, they have ability to make what they're saying sound very appealing because they have a lot of personal magnetism, which is fine. That's great. But at the end of the day, results are results. And the results with Zone Technique are spectacular.
No, I can feel, I'm an energy healer. I can feel everything. So everything for me is all how I feel or energy that comes across, or even if you talk about something, I can pick up on the essence of what that is. So that's awesome. So you did answer my next question was, where can somebody find a graduate of your class? Because that you said they can do on the website. So the next question is, if somebody wanted to become a student, how long is the course? Is it like go at your own pace? Is it something you have to do on a time to go at your own pace? So if I was gung ho, would it take me 3 months maybe to finish? If I just said, I'm going to do this full time.
There are people who are gung ho who in 2 weeks are freaking grandmasters.
Wow.
There are people who do it in 6 months. But when you join Zone School, you get immediate and lifetime access to 50 hours of me teaching. You can watch 5 minutes a day or 2 hours a day, whatever you want.
And is 50 hours the completion?
Well, that's just the basic course. I mean, don't get me wrong, you don't have to continue because after 50 hours, you will be a legit expert master healer for sure.
Oh gosh,
but
that's exciting.
I have about 450 hours in my advanced programs.
Okay. So the levels, so you'll have different levels that people can continue to educate on if they'd like. Yeah, well, I teach class too, like we talked about different modalities and healing and stuff. And I think that everybody, what I've seen is people will go and specialize, or they'll kind of tweak it to make it their own, right? And some people, they're like, just show me the basics, that's all I need, and they'll go save the world. Other people want to stay a forever student and continue learning. I think it's just, we're all wired a little differently. So I can see that. I'm more the like, hey, give me the 50 hours, I'll take them as quick as I can, and then I'm going to go help people. And then the rest of it, I might take an advanced course, but for me, it's just like, I want to be effective as soon as possible. So someone that's wired like me is like, how can I do it now? Right? That's just, and other people, they want to take every class and feel like they want to learn everything first. And that's okay too. So I love that you can do 50 hours. I mean, people can knock that out in a couple of weeks if they really wanted to, right?
I had this one guy, a chiropractor in Canada. I forgot the part. I think it was in Ontario. I'm not exactly sure. I think he was in Ontario, and he just loved it so much. He was watching like 6 hours a day, every day. And then he was just like a freaking miracle worker of his town within like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Oh, that's
awesome.
This is fantastic.
I love it.
I'm not easily impressed, but I'm actually impressed today. So,
yeah.
So you got me, doctor. I'm going to try this. My daughter does live in Ohio, and so occasionally I get out there. I actually drove across country there to see her and for the holidays. So you're not too far from Tennessee, so you never know.
Come visit anytime.
I just drove because I have a big 100-pound dog that is my best friend, so he goes everywhere. So I want to do it. I actually want to try to have the experience, and if not, I'll reach out to you and say, hey doc, where can I go see someone in my area? Is this exciting?
Let me tell you this. You'll like this. She just comes to mind. I mean, I could give you many examples, but as you were talking, she came to mind. I have a woman in Zone School. She's a massage therapist. In other words, she's trained as a massage therapist, and I think she also took like a Reiki course, but not an advanced one, probably the kind that you can do in like a weekend, nothing major, Right. So her degrees were what you might say were, limited to that, whatever that means. She went to massage therapy school. She took like, I think, a very basic Reiki course, as far as I understand it. And she probably, before she joined Zone School, was working on people, in person with a massage, and maybe would throw in some Reiki, and probably was helping people to a degree. I don't know exactly how well, but she joined Zone School. She was one of those voracious studiers. She decided she's not going to see anyone in person anymore. She's going to do everything remotely, energetically. This woman has got to be one of the best healers living. I mean, on freaking Zoom, people will call her with like psoriasis all over their damn body. They've been to herbalists, been to acupuncturists, been to energy workers, been to dermatologists. No one can help them. They have 3 Zone remote sessions with her, and their skin's perfect.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm glad that you answered that. That's wonderful, because that was one of my questions, but I kind of took it off because I didn't think it was possible. So this modality, we'll call it, right? This healing modality, it can be done remotely. It doesn't have to be done in person.
I bet you 20% of Zone School members are remote workers.
Oh,
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
So all you need is a computer and an internet, or a phone, an internet connection, and you can still get help. Now, I want to do it in person because I like having the live experience where I can see where they're feeling my neck or whatever and have the experience, but I can see where a lot of people are not going to have that option. If you live very remotely, or you can't get to somebody, or it's too far, it doesn't really matter. But if it can be done remotely, I love that. That's wonderful. Oh, I love this. This is great. I'm very excited.
Yep.
So I think this is great.
Good stuff.
Great stuff. Any last minute things you want to add, doctor, before we call it a show?
Well, first of all, thank you, Michael and Lisa. A. B, if you are a chiropractor or doctor of any type, or healer of any type, and start studying, and in the not too distant future, you'll be a healing master. And as good as you are already, because whatever level that doctor or healer already has, there might be some amazing doctors or healers out there. It'll be higher. That's all.
No, it'll just, I would agree with you. It'll just add to it. It enhances it, it tweaks it, it makes you even better. And I think you just have a bigger bag of tricks, so to speak, to help people. And, just from me teaching people over the years, I know that people really do make it their own. They find little things that they either specialize in, or they tweak it, and they just become an expert in their own little arena, so to speak. So I like that. And I think everybody's a little different, and that's good. I
would
get
say-
excited. I'm doing it. 50
Yeah,
hours. I don't know where I'm going to
I'm
find 50
heading
hours.
over. I'm going to the website. Yeah, I'm in.
I would say this also, guys. What I would say is the thing I'll end with is the word confidence, because even if someone's a good healer, and like we've already established, there's many good doctors and healers on this planet, they do have a certain level of confidence, because even if someone's a good healer and someone comes in and they had taken a blood test and their thyroid was off, the question is, how really confident are they that they're going to do X, Y, Z with that patient and their thyroid's going to normalize?
Okay, good. All right, I'm excited. Let's do this, guys. So,
I'm ready.
thank you, Dr. Goldman, for being with us today. It was a great show. I was actually very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I watched your stuff and it was great, but I think the stuff we got into today really sparked me even more. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm excited, and I'm excited to bring it to our listeners. We're all about solutions, and that's why we're here. So thank you, production, for being with me today. Thank you, Michael Lane. And of course, thank you, Dr. Goldman, for some. Thank you.